Hello everyone, welcome to this new lesson in the CSS Animations course. In this lesson, we're going to create this nice little button hover effect. So you can see when I hover over the link, 3 circles come in to cover up the link. Then a background appears from behind them and covers the whole link, completing the whole effect. So let's see how we can do that. I will start here in my HTML by adding a link. And inside it, I will add a span and leave it empty. We will see why we need this span later in the lesson. Then I will just say, hover me. Alright, now I will go to my CSS. I will target the link and add width, 220 pixels, height, 80 pixels. Okay, now I will add color, this yellow color, background color, transparent since we don't want any background color, font size, 26 pixels, text decoration, none to remove the underlines, text transform, uppercase to make all the letters capital. Then, in order to center the text horizontally and vertically, we will add text align, center, and line height, 80 pixels. Cool. Now finally, I will add transition, all, 0.5 seconds, and position, relative. Awesome. Now let's work on creating the circles that come in from the left and right when we hover over the link. We will use the before and after pseudo elements to make them. So I will go right here and I will say A, colon before, then comma, and A, colon after. And inside that, I will add content, empty strings, position, absolute, top, 50%, width, 20 pixels, height, 20 pixels as well, background color, our yellow color. And in order to make them circles, I will add border radius, 50%. Alright, so now you can see we have the 2 circles. The one on the left is the before pseudo element, and the one on the right is the after pseudo element. And because we set their top property to 50%, their top edge sits at 50% from the top of the link. But we want their center point to be at 50% from the top of the link, not their top edges. So what we can do is we can translate them toward the top by half their height. This will shift them a little towards the top and will center them properly. So I will go back to my CSS, and inside the before and after pseudo elements, I will add transform, translate Y. And in order to shift them towards the top, I will add minus 50%. And finally, I will add transition, all, 0.3 seconds. So now you can see the before and after circles are perfectly centered vertically inside the link. But you can also see that they aren't looking so good. The before pseudo element is covering the letter H, and the after element is nearly touching the letter E. And this is because we didn't specify any horizontal position for them. So they're just sitting before and after the text of the link. So let's set a horizontal position for them. I will target the before pseudo element alone, and I will add left, 0. This will position it on the left side of the link itself, not the text inside the link, like so. Then I will target the after one, and add right, 0 as well. And this will position the after circle at the right of the link this time. Alright, now, if you remember, when we hovered over the link, there were 3 circles, not 2. Actually, there were 4, but 2 of them sit one on top of the other and appear as one circle. We'll see how to do that. In order to make the other two circles, we will use the box shadow property, which allows us to add a shadow to HTML elements. So let's see how we can create circles identical to the ones we already have using the box shadow property. First, I will start with the before pseudo element. I will go right here and add box shadow. And the box shadow accepts 4 values. The first value is the horizontal distance between the element and the shadow we're adding. So if we add 10 pixels, the shadow will be 10 pixels from the element to the right. I want the shadow to be 100 pixels from the before pseudo element to the left. So I will add minus 100 pixels. Next, the second value of the box shadow property is the vertical distance between the element and the shadow. And we want the element and the shadow to be on the same plane. So we will set the vertical distance to 0. The third value of the box shadow property is how blurry the shadow will be. But we actually don't want ours to be blurry. We want it to be as sharp as the before pseudo element. So we will set it to 0 as well. And finally, the last value of the box shadow property is the color of the shadow. Let's set it to green for now. So now, when I go and reload the page, you can see a new green circle has appeared to the left of the before pseudo element, and the horizontal distance between them is 100 pixels, while the vertical distance is 0, so they sit level with each other. And you can see it's sharp because we set the blur value for it to 0. Alright, I will do the same for the after pseudo element, but this time I will make the shadow sit on the right. So I will copy this box shadow property, paste it inside the after pseudo element, and change minus 100 pixels to 100 pixels, so it will be on the right, not on the left. And I will also change the color to blue. Cool! So now we have 4 circles. The 2 on the left are the before pseudo element and its shadow, while the 2 on the right are the after pseudo element and its shadow. Now, let's work on the hover effect. I will go right here and say A, hover, before. I will add left, 50%. So this will make the before pseudo element move to the right by 50% of the link's width, and its shadow will, of course, move with it. So now, if I hover over the link, you can see the before pseudo element moves along with its shadow. But when hovering, we don't want that shadow to maintain the same distance of 100 pixels from the left side. We want it to move over to the right side by, let's say, 30 pixels. We can handle that really easily by going right here and adding box shadow, 30 pixels instead of minus 100, then 0, 0, and green. So now, when I hover over the link, you can see the green shadow now moves to the right of the before pseudo element circle by 30 pixels. Alright, let's do the same for the after pseudo element. I will copy this entire block of code, paste it, and change before to after. Then I will change left to right, so it will move to the left by 50% of the link width, along with its blue shadow. But then we want the shadow to move to the element's left side by 30 pixels. So we will change 30 pixels here to minus 30 pixels. And finally, green to blue. And now, when I hover over the link, you can see the after circle is moving to the left, and its blue shadow is moving as well until it reaches a point to the left of the element by 30 pixels. Awesome! We almost have the effect we're going for, but there's one thing left. We want the before and after pseudo elements to end up in the same position so that they will be displayed one on top of the other and appear as one circle, leaving us with only 3 circles. You see, when I set left to 50% here, it means that the before pseudo element will move until its left edge is exactly at 50%. But we don't want that. We want its center to be exactly at the 50% of the link width. So what we can do is we can translate it back to the left by half of its width. So I will go right here and add transform, translate x, minus 50%. And because we set translate Y above here to minus 50% as well, we need to tell the browser that we want it to stay minus 50%. So I will go down again and add translate Y minus 50%. Then I will do the same for the after pseudo element. I will shift it back to the right by half of its width, so that it will be at the same position as the before one. So I will add transform, translate X, 50%, which will shift it to the right by 50% of its width. And translate Y, minus 50%. So now, when I go and hover over the link, you can see the before and after pseudo elements are now sitting one on top of the other and have become one circle. Now, let's go and change the color of the shadow circles to yellow as well. Alright, now we will work on the yellow background. I will use the span we added inside our link to create it. So I will target the span, add position, absolute, top, 0, left, 0, width, 100%, height, 100% as well, and background color, our yellow color, and border radius, 8 pixels. So now you can see the yellow background sits on top of the link and is covering it up. So let's keep going. I will go back here and add transform, scale, 0, transition, all, 0.3 seconds. Then I will go down here, and when hovering over the link, I will make some changes happen to the span. I will add transform, scale, 1, so that it will get bigger again, and then transition delay, 0.4 seconds, so it will wait until the circles come in. So now, when I go and hover over the link, you can see the yellow background gets bigger after the circles finish moving. Now, let's change the link color on hovering. I will go back here and say A, on hovering, and I will add color, this dark gray color, and transition delay, 0.4 seconds as well. So now you can see when I hover, nothing happens because the yellow background is covering up the text. So what we can do is we can go up here inside the span selector and add z-index -1 to make the text appear in front of the background. And we will also do that for the before and after pseudo elements. So now, when we hover, you can see the text now appears in front of the yellow background. And finally, one thing left. I will go right here inside the before and after pseudo element selector, and I will add opacity 0. Then, when hovering over the link, I will make their opacity go to 1 again. So now they've disappeared. But when I go and hover over the link, they appear again. Then the yellow background appears after them, giving us exactly the effect we want.